All right, a little football guys talking baseball. OU loses game 1. OU loses game 2. And the Ole Miss Rebels are national champions. I I will say this. It was a hell of a ride for a team that was picked to finish 6th in the Big 12 in the preseason. That being said, man, I wish they would have played better. I I feel like Ole Miss didn't get their best, Ted,
Nope.
and they were set up perfectly going into the championship series with the pitching staff. Uh, they they didn't have the timely hitting that they'd had throughout the NCAA tournament. I mean, uncharacteristic wild pitches, defensive mistakes, mistakes on the base paths. Just, I guess let's recap both games, but just not the way you wanted them to play. Like they didn't play. I just feel like Ole Miss didn't get their best.
Yeah, that's the frustrating part of it. You're okay with losing, but man, whenever you don't put your best out there and mistake riddled baseball, I know those guys are frustrated, but hey, man, you're right. It was a hell of a run, hell of a ride. It was fun, and I think it's going to be something that this baseball program can capitalize off of.
Yep. All right. Game 1 recap. Lose 10-3 in that one. And speaking of uncharacteristic, just Jake Bennett wasn't sharp early. Looked a little nervous, right?
Yeah.
Had the same amount of wild pitches in those first 2 innings than he had all season long. I think that's what I read. Peyton Graham, that error was big, and they fell into a 4-0 hole before Bennett kind of settled in, and they couldn't get to Jack Doherty. He was perfect through those first 5 innings in game 1.
Yeah. It was not good. Now, this is really for game 1 and game 2, but just be the way we play defense, how we seem to be rattled at the plate offensively, just some of the mistakes on the base paths and everything. I feel like, and I wasn't there, and it was kind of hard to tell on TV, but I feel like the atmosphere may have got to him a little bit. I mean, because it looked like it was pretty heavy in Ole Miss's favor, at least like the crowd shots were whenever they were going crazy, whenever stuff happened. So maybe that skewed it a bit, but it just seemed like a super loud, intense environment. And it felt like once they made a couple of bad mistakes, it just kind of lingered in their head. And I thought maybe the only thing I could think of, obviously it's a huge game, there's pressure there, but that atmosphere was pretty wild too.
I was told by OU fans that were there and by some Ole Miss guys that I know were there that it was at the very least 85% Ole Miss fans.
Yeah.
And I was going to save this for the end, but I think it's important to say this. We failed those kids. This fan base failed those kids.
Yeah.
And I'm including that. Like, and I know, right, it's expensive to travel right now. Like, and if my son's birthday party hadn't been planned for months on Saturday, I would have been there. But, and the fans that made it to Omaha, you did your part. But the rest of us, we failed those kids. And that's just the truth. And it kind of hurt. It hurts me to say it because I'm part of it. Like I'm one of the people that has the means to get there and go support those guys. And I didn't do it. Now I can, use the birthday parties as excuses and stuff like that. But the reality is they were playing in the national championship and they were playing on a road game. And you know what that's like.
Brutal. Totally agree with everything you're saying. I will say this, however. I'm glad because we were going to go. We were trying to move stuff around to where we could go. Just couldn't pull it off. I'm glad I didn't go because if I would have had beer poured on me whenever someone from Ole Miss hit a home run and we were down, I don't think it would have gone well.
Especially it would have been like me and you probably sitting together.
I know. It would not have gone well. And I don't know how OU fans handle it. Maybe they handled it better because they were outnumbered so much, but that has to be tough to deal with, man. Oh my gosh. That was crazy.
And just one last thing. It's like OU fans, we got to step it up moving forward.
Yep.
Especially when we go to the SEC. We just thought that's what the SEC is like.
Yep.
And that's our soon to be new reality. And we all got to challenge each other because those kids, they walked into a bad situation there. I mean, it's not easy to be playing for it all and to feel like the entire crowd is against you.
Right.
That's not helpful. And some people want to say, oh, well, they went and won on the road in the regional and won on the road in Blacksburg for the super. Yes, but this is for the damn national championship, man.
Yep.
And we failed those kids. We did. And as I was watching the wheels fall off for Trevin Michael in game 2, there's a big part of me that felt guilty, man.
Yeah. Yep.
Like that atmosphere, that it was all Ole Miss fans there going nuts. And once again, I'm not talking to the OU fans that made the trip. Great job. Way to do your part. I'm kind of speaking to myself a little bit right now.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. That's right. It's true.
I guess we should recap the games now that I've made myself feel bad and a lot of other people feel bad. But that if you go back and you think about game 1, right, that 6th inning, it was kind of the 6th inning in game 2 as well. But the 6th inning in game 1 has really felt where it felt like things shifted. And it was a weird momentum shift because it felt like OU missed a massive opportunity when they scored 2 runs. But I mean, you get the Pettis bunt with the errant throw that made it 4-1. You get Spikerman walks to load the bases. You got the bases loaded with no one out, and Mason Nichols comes in and strikes Graham and Robertson out. And now he walks, Treadaway to make it 4-2, but he ends up getting out of that situation, only giving up 1 run. And it felt like in a weird way that shifted a ton of momentum back to Ole Miss. And then Ted, that 8th inning, it wasn't quite 55-19 situation, but like when I think about the painful stretches as an OU fan, watching them hit those 3 home runs back to back to back, it hurt my soul, man. It hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, in the 6th inning, I didn't get to see that entire exchange, how all of that played out. We were all in the backyard around the pool watching the TV, and I had walked around to the to the driveway to, I don't know, get something from the refrigerator, and they scored. I was told by everyone not to come back, so I had to sit in the driveway in a lawn chair and wait for that whole thing to happen before I was allowed back into my own backyard. But yeah, it was brutal watching those just hit monster bombs off of us in the 8th inning and seal the whole deal. That was brutal.
Yeah. So many runs with 2 outs for Ole Miss in game 1. You struck out 15 times. Just hard to win games when that happened. Then game 2, really the first 5 innings, just kind of boring, right? Hunter Elliott for Ole Miss and Cade Horton were just dealing. And then the 6th inning, I'm going to try my best not to cuss a lot right here. But the interference rule in baseball, don't cuss, is stupid. That play, that was bullshit.
It was.
and it takes a run off the board that would have scored anyways, no matter what happened at first.
Well, he was already there before any of the stuff at first happened. He's already across the plate.
I mean, Nicholas scores no matter what. What? And the bag's inside the line. I have questions. I don't watch a ton of college baseball, but even the announcers, they're like, yeah, well, that's the rule. The rule's stupid, but yeah, that's the rule. And they're all like, it needs to be changed. Oh, thanks. That makes us feel better. Who knows what happens in the 6th inning if that call doesn't happen?
There's no doubt about it. And I think there's a time to call that play. You have to account for the horrible throw, right? They're not accounting for the horrible throw.
If he's running right down the line, it still hits him in the back.
Right. Yes. I thought it was so horrible. So horrible. I thought Skip Johnson was going to get tossed. Maybe he should have. I don't know. But that, in my opinion, that call is egregious. And I know what the rule is. And I know that you have to run in between the two chalk lines. I know that call's egregious. That moment in that game, that call is awful. And there's no way around it. And I will never be convinced otherwise. That call is horseshit.
I thought we said we weren't going to cuss.
Try.
Sorry, kids.
Try.
We try. We try our best. But yeah, that happens. And then, of course, Gonzalez, Cade Horton makes one mistake all day, and Gonzalez makes him pay for it and sends a bomb over the right field fence. 1-0. And then then the 7th, but it felt, Crooks gets the rally going a little bit. Blooper RBI from Nicholas, and what was it, a 4-pitch walk?
Yeah.
From Pettis, right? When he was just doing the fake bunting thing, which turns out could have just done that all day, I guess.
Yeah, but it's tough. Puts the pressure on the pitcher, makes that strike zone look tiny. That was good.
The way that they bounce back from the interference thing, it says a lot about that team, because that felt like, sitting on the couch watching it, like I felt deflated. And the fact that they were able to bounce back, go up 2-1, then Horton strikes out the side in the 7th and is just mowing guys down. I was really impressed. But the bottom line with game 2 is OU's up 2-1. And, Horton had struck out 13 at that point before Skip Johnson goes and gets him. You got 5 outs to get, and you're handing the ball to Trevin Michael with a 1-run lead. If you asked any guy on that team, if you asked Skip Johnson, if you would ask any fan, you're taking that situation 100 times out of 100.
Yep.
And unfortunately, it looked like the pressure got to Trevin Michael a little bit. And now the hit and run was perfect. I mean, the way that they executed that, then the single to tie 2-2, but the wild pitches, that was where I felt guiltiest as an OU fan not being there, because I felt like that whole stadium was kind of collapsing in on him with how crazy the Ole Miss fans were going, and it affected his performance. And another wild pitch, you lose. It was tough to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. It was disappointing. And, and it just kind of goes back to, they left so much out there, fielding mistakes, outs in foul territory that they could have had, easy outs. I say easy plays that you'd expect them to make and that they've made all year. Mistakes out on the base paths, just couldn't figure it out at the plate. It looked like, and credit Ole Miss for this, but it looked like our guys were they were lost up there. They were sitting off speed, and the fastball would blow by them on certain situations, just one guy after another. And I don't know. They never got into a really good groove, a good rhythm. And, that's one of the things that Ole Miss did throughout the 2 games is keep sending new guys in and, end up facing a bunch of different pitchers. So it was tough.
Yeah. They just struck out a ton.
Yeah.
When you look at the 2 games.
And the weird thing about it, a lot of strikeouts looking and a lot of strikeouts on swings that were not rhythm swings. Like I'm lost guessing swings, So
I will say this. The catcher for Ole Miss was one of the most egregious framers I've ever seen in my entire life. Oh my gosh, dude. Just ridiculous. Like, it was credit to him. He was very good at it, but he fooled the umpire a couple times. And I was like, I hate that guy.
Yeah. Who was it? Was it Crooks that got hit by pitch? Who was that? They reviewed it.
Anundo, I think, right? He was
that who it was? Okay.
Yeah. I thought they were going to reverse that.
I did too. And I'm telling you what, I was not in a good place. If that would have happened, I would not have been in a good place.
Something would have been broken.
Oh, it was so frustrating because that first call is just the most god awful thing I've ever seen in my life. I don't care what the rule is. I don't care what the baseball guys say. Horrible.
Yeah, I will say this. Seemed like there were a lot of people that were poking fun at OU for losing in the national championship in baseball. And I've never understood this. And I don't care what fan or what team you cheer for. And maybe it's just the way I'm wired. I do not understand people that make fun of teams for losing in the national championship when their team had their ass at home.
Right.
It does not make sense to me. And this is kind of the example I put out there on Twitter. It's like, I will make fun of Texas for losing to Kansas in football. That is fair. They deserve to be made fun of for that. But if Texas is playing for a national title in something and they lose, you're not going to hear a damn word from me if they didn't lose to OU.
Right.
Now, if they lost to OU, oh, yeah, it's on. Like softball. I mean, that's exactly what happened. Yeah, I'm going to go after Texas a little bit. OU beat them. But
you haven't had success in a while if that's something that you're doing.
I just don't get it. It's like, oh, you losers. Like, what? I am one of those people. If OU is not in the title, or if they're not in the championship, I'll comment maybe on what's happening in the game. I'm not making fun of anyone because OU wasn't there.
That's right.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just different. And maybe I'm just maybe I'm getting old, man. But that's just how I've always been.
I think that is just the social media does it magnifies the margins quite a bit at times. And I think this is one of those instances. I think most people kind of get it. Right? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense whenever your team's at home watching to try and clown someone for losing a national championship game. It doesn't work very well. It's like it's the easiest cell phone of all time.
There's some Oklahoma State fans that hate listening to this podcast that are like, oh, that was me. Dang it. Don't do it. It makes and listen, I'm not trying to be a buzzkill. I'm not trying to tell people not to have fun. It's just not something I do. Right? It's never made sense to me. But right. I don't know. Maybe I'm just one last thing about OU baseball. You're gonna love this. You and I both love Jamar Cain, right? Great guy. He's now at LSU, and he has a tradition, right? When he gets a commitment from a recruit, like when a recruit calls him and says, "Hey, coach, I'm coming," he puts out this GIF of a cartoon dog like snickering is the best way. It's like, like that's, I don't know. That's his thing. He did it when he was
Right.
at OU, when he's a defensive ends coach. And he sent that tweet out right when the wheels were falling off for Trevin Michael. And OU fans were going after him. And I basically texted him, I was like, bro, what are you doing? He's like, what is going on? He was not watching the game. He actually FaceTimed me. He was watching Naked and Afraid. And he was like, what? He was like, what? Why are OU fans losing? I was like, dude, they literally just blew the lead and lost the national championship in baseball right when you tweeted that. He was like, oh my God. It was incredibly bad timing, but I'm here to defend Jamar Cain because he FaceTimed me right after it. Cause I tweeted him, I was like, bro, he got some bad timing. And he FaceTimed me right after that. And he was like, what did I do?
The best part of that is that he was watching Naked and Afraid. That is hilarious.
Oh, it was, yeah. So if you're one of those people that fired off a tweet at Jamar Cain, maybe apologize. He didn't mean anything of it. Got a big recruit though. He's pretty fired up.
Oh, good for him. That's
Dude, I had
hilarious.
a long conversation with him because he's at LSU now, right? That's
Yeah.
you're going after a lot of big time recruits. He was telling me about some of the like the demands some of these kids have now.
Crazy, huh?
And he's like, hey, I can't do anything. Like that's illegal and all that stuff. Like he walks the straight and narrow, but he's like, these kids come to me with the straight up demands now.
So there's inflation in the recruiting game too, huh? Is that what's going on?
Sounds like it, man. All right. That's such a good story. The timing of it was so funny.